you remember Goldman Sachs got pulled in front of the Senate. Senator Carl Levin from Michigan had found these emails as part of this investigation showing how they purposely sold crappy goods to their clients. And they knew it because we have the internal emails. And there was this famous interaction between Senator Levin and the Goldman Sachs executives. Let's watch.
July 1, 2007, tells the sales force the top priority is Timberwolf. Your top priority to sell is that shitty deal.
Mr.
Got it?
My comment was I didn't recall the sales. That
You got it?
that we were trying to sell.
Okay, you're trying to sell a shitty deal, and it's your top priority. Come on, Mr. Sparks.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Should Goldman Sachs be trying to sell, and by the way, it sold it, a lot of it, after that date. Should Goldman Sachs be trying to sell a shitty deal?
well,
Can you answer
Again, I
that
didn't
one?
use those
Can you
words,
answer
but-
that one, yes or no?
Okay. Now, the reason is there was internal emails that said our number one priority is to sell this shitty deal to our customers, okay? Because that's what they do. In fact, Greg Smith left Goldman Sachs, famously wrote an editorial earlier this year saying that the environment there, the culture had become, quote, toxic and destructive. And he said, quote, it makes me ill how callously people talk about ripping their clients off. Now, you have all of this evidence, including their internal emails. On top of that, on one of the deals, Goldman Sachs says, okay, you got us a $550 million fine that they paid. They're not paying that $550 million fine with all their lawyers if they didn't do it, okay? So all this evidence, what does the Justice Department say today? There is not a viable basis to bring a criminal prosecution with respect to Goldman Sachs or its employees. You are free to go, okay? There's no end to this. They are never going to prosecute any of the top bankers. They're just not going to do it. It's not in their DNA. They get paid not to do so. They got paid by the bankers before. They're going to get paid by the bankers afterwards, whether they're in the SEC, the Justice Department, etc. The top campaign contributors to President Obama in 2008 were Goldman Sachs. So the top 8 out of 10, I believe, contributors to Mitt Romney are the top banks in the country. These guys are never going to go to jail, no matter how much they committed fraud and no matter how obvious it is. And yet another grotesque failure of the Holder Justice Department.
We're basically in a time, as you say, almost every show where there's nothing that they can do that will get them prosecuted at this point. We're in a position where they've bought the politicians, or we just have so much reverence for them, or the government regulators are so closely tied to them that they can't be prosecuted for anything. But it wasn't so long ago, 15, 20 years, where we weren't in a position like that. It's become stronger over time. And I wonder if it's cyclical, if we'll eventually get to a point where, back in the day, there were robber barons, but eventually they were cracked down on. Will we have the person who can do that? Or are we in a position where, with campaign finance the way it is, where that just can't happen until we have a constitutional amendment?
Somebody finally wrote the editorial that I've basically been saying for the last 4 years, which is we're screwed either way. And so is the person who's going to do it Eric Holder and President Obama? Well, obviously not. They were in office for nearly 4 years now.
It could have been. That's what's so sad.
It could have been. I mean, he ran on change. He ran on I'm going to go get the guys, et cetera. But it's obviously not him. And so his opponent is Mitt Romney, whose whole job is to protect the bankers. So we're damned if we do, damned if we don't.
If those Goldman Sachs guys brought some weed to work?
Oh, they're gone. Actually, they're Goldman Sachs. They can get away with that. Remember, there was that huge prostitution bust by Wall Street. And great point made by a lot of the investigators, including an Inside Job in the great movie about this, where they said, look, it's prosecutorial 101. You take low-level crimes like those prostitution charges, you use it to flip some of those guys on their bosses on the bigger crimes, on the fraud. Did they even try? They didn't even try. So if they found them with a bag of cocaine, they'd be like, oh, well, golly gee, that's just not enough evidence.
Yeah,
If you
search warrant was flawed.
And if
It's
you
not
had
crack, I mean.
Yeah, and if you had like maybe 4.5 pounds of cocaine instead of 3.5 pounds of cocaine, then maybe we could have worked something, but and then they hand it off to ship it to the evidence department to a black guy, and they're like, what the hell's he doing with that cocaine? Arrest him, put him in jail for the rest of his life.
I hear, maybe I'm too naive about campaign finance reform, so I hear the argument that maybe that'll never happen until there is meaningful campaign finance reform. But I still feel like there will be. I feel like that there will.
We got to bottom out.
We got to buy that somebody. Maybe it is Spitzer. Somebody's coming out of New York, and they're going to get elected president, and they're going to run things differently. Not irony, but what's sort of still surprised. You said it could have been Holder and Obama, is that, and it obviously isn't going to be. But if there was ever a political time when voters would cheer you, yes, get them.
So much potential political gain.
It's so, and it's just, so we have to find another moment like that. But I remain optimistic that it'll happen.